Greetings, greetings. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Death, Taxes, and Sports podcast. I'm here with my esteemed colleagues from Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island, Mr. Gary, the Legend Johnson, and we are here via audio. Mr. Ben Holloway here for a fantastic episode 131. How are y'all doing today?
Can't complain, some interesting basketball going on right now over there in the garden, but yeah, just good here talking to you guys, ready to talk some sports.
There you go. Hey, Ben, how you doing, sir? Maybe he's here. Maybe
I think I lost y'all, but I'm here now. If you can hear
I
me.
was saying, how are you doing this fine evening?
Yeah, man, hanging in there. Hanging in.
All right. Sounds good. All right, well, tonight we got Jalen Brunson's incredible performances of consecutive 40-point games. We have the 76ers, the Boston Bruins, a little bit of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, but of course we're going to chop it up and change up some things here a little bit. But Gary, you being a New Yorker, Jalen Brunson, his performances, but an update, he's questionable to return for the rest of game 2 for a sore foot. But we'll address that in a second. But Jalen Brunson versus Sixers averaged 41.8 points per game, 10.3 assists per game in the final 4 games, overall at a 35.5 points per game and 9 assists per game. Where would you say this ranks amongst the greatest series performances in NBA history? And then, of course, comment on the potential Jalen Brunson injury. Then, Ben, feel free to chime in.
So, in terms of his overall, the performances where it ranks, it'll go down as one of the great performances by a guard that we've seen probably of this era, certainly. And, we look back, maybe it may go down as one of the great point guard performances all time. It's a shame that he did not receive a single first place vote for most valuable player. I think by the very definition, yes, was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a little bit more deserving of that? Absolutely. And I'm not necessarily upset that Jokic won it again or anything like that, but if you look at just how valuable a player was to a team, you cannot tell me that there was a more valuable player to his team than Jalen Brunson has been to the Knicks. The case in point being right now, I believe they are down going into the half, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. I think they're down by 10 or 11 points, I think.
At the last check. Yeah, they're down 10 at the half. Indiana just dropped 73 on them, in the first half. So that lets you know right there, his value is very, very evident. And, you lose him on top of losing Randall, where are they going? If Knicks fans, I know right now, are Knicks fans' hearts in their throats. And as somebody that by no means am I going to sit there and classify myself as a Knicks fan, but I have grown to be a big Jalen Brunson fan just of his overall play. It is disappointing if he is out for any period of time because the Knicks have aspirations to get to the conference finals. And, hey, who knows? Boston is banged up. Yes, they certainly didn't look it last night, but you let a Cleveland team push them a few games more than they should to get to the conference finals, then it's all up in the air. You know what I'm saying? It's they have those aspirations, and frankly, looking at how he was carrying this team, it looked very much like that was a very real possibility. So I am, as a fan of his, hoping for him to be able to, if not return to this game, be good to go for game 3 in Indianapolis. And then, for the Knicks, you got to kind of just roll from there.
Facts. Facts on facts. Ben, we talk about, if we're talking about MVPs, I think Joel Embiid should have gotten a vote. Just one vote, because I think they were third in the East before his injury, and then they were a play-in team. But that's neither here nor there. But I do agree with you, Gary. But Ben, I think that this Jalen Brunson injury and his performances just shows the limitations of this team offensively in the New York Knicks, and how the only way they've been able to advance is by stellar performances by Jalen Brunson, and then doing just enough by everybody else. But your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, so I would say that as far as his performance goes in the first round against the Sixers, unbelievable. Just it's got to be. As far as I know, Gary went to the guards, and that's a perfect way to go. I'll just go overall, and I'm not going by stats here because I'm, on my phone here and just wanted to participate because I'm feeling a little bit better. But anyways, it's got to be in the most, top 10 first round series performances ever, and probably top 5, especially the last 4 games, how he closed it out. And then, of course, he followed up in game 1 of this series with another 40 piece. So, dude is just absolutely balling, and all credit to him. Excellent performances night after night after night, especially when your team needs it. And Gary, to your point, this team is in the lottery without him. Mm-hmm. Even if he missed, let's just lowball it. Let's say he missed 30 games, they would absolutely not be in the playoffs. They wouldn't have been even in the play-in. He is that team. So valuable, absolutely. I cannot argue with that by any stretch. I would say that SGA, definitely. I may have voted that way if I had a vote, or we all aspire maybe one day to have an MVP vote. But SGA definitely deserved it. Might have gone that way. The amount of 30-point games he had, and he doesn't have another star. He's got a bunch of good role players, and Oklahoma City's balling so far this playoffs, but he doesn't have another star. Like Jokic obviously has Murray, Embiid has Maxey, and Brunson. It's Brunson. It's the Brunson show. And so he's definitely deserves a lot of praise, and I always valuable. One of the, I guess, pet peeves that it will always exist is it's kind of one of those things that there will never ever be an agreement on what is valuable, what is the most valuable. Valuable is a word that can be taken so many different ways. Part of me wishes that there was a little bit more of a set criteria, but then again, then there wouldn't be as much discussion and debate either. So maybe it is better off the way that it is right now. But yeah, Brunson deserves all the praise that he's getting, and it's funny that when the contract happened last summer, mostly everybody said the Knicks overpaid, and most people at that point were logical in saying that. And now he's on a bargain. It's funny how that works out, but that man has proved that the Knicks absolutely did not make a mistake, and now he's probably his next contract is gonna be much bigger than what he got now.
Yeah.
No doubt. And a little side note, I mentioned this to Jeff just before. I'll end with this here. I think it's really cool that Reggie Miller, who has so much history with Knicks and Pacers, the choking gag with Spike Lee, like just so much history. I really like that he's calling the game. I just think that that's really cool. So.
Oh yeah, you think about Knicks Pacers, man. The number of times I think they played about 4 or 5 times in the playoffs in the '90s. I mean, just what that represents for '90s and '90s basketball. That was such a dope era. But Gary, I'm gonna toss it to you, man. Like when it comes to Brunson and his free agency signing, and I wanted to add this question specifically because you look at some of the other free agent names where they made an impact, right? You're looking at Amari to the Knicks. You're looking at Bron to Miami, Steve Nash, even Carmelo Anthony going to New York. Any other free agent, even one as simply as Shaq. He was a trade, so that didn't really count. But
wait, which one? Shaq to where?
I was thinking Shaq to the Lakers, but that was a trade.
No, he signed as a free agent.
Yeah,
he's been traded. He's been traded every place else. He signed as a free agent.
Okay, yeah. He's moved so many times. My mind. I can't keep track of everything. But
he was traded to Miami. He was traded to Phoenix. He was traded to Cleveland, and he was traded to I think he's signed with Boston.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Well, the question really was like, where does Brunson's free agency signing rank versus those other big names in the 2000s? But let's maybe add Shaq in there because it was on the back end of the 90s. But where would you say that ranks as far as impactful?
I would actually separate Shaq just because that was like the tail end of the 90s, early 2000s. Okay. But in terms of let's go the last 25 years. It might be the best free agent signing short of LeBron. Like, let's be clear about this. Like, I think I always looked at Steph Curry's second contract as the most team-friendly contract for a superstar since the Jordan era, in which Jordan was just getting paid off his royalties more than anything else. But Steph Curry's contract before he signed that big one after winning MVP and, in that 73 wins and all that, his contract was extremely team-friendly because he was also injury-prone. So they didn't know what they were getting. They didn't know that this guy was going to end up being the transcending superstar that he is. With Jalen Brunson, they knew that they were getting a quality point guard who Knicks fans have long suffered for since the days of Mark Jackson. Let's go back that far. You get him, and he is somebody that should have gotten far more love for MVP of the season, but he has literally been the most valuable player for a team on such an extremely friendly contract. And it's still like, it's low on the superstar scale. And I think, frankly, for him, I think that's kind of how he likes it. Just let him, he just likes to get to the craft. He just wants to ball out and win. So if you could get somebody like that it's a good deal for him and a good deal for the Knicks, and you see how their fortunes have turned since, I got to say, in the last 25 years, this might be the best free agent signing since LeBron.
All right. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm concerned about the usage rate of Jalen Brunson right now because I'm looking at Thibodeau as the coach. I think Thibodeau as the coach will be bad for Jalen Brunson's longevity. And I say that, Ben, because we're seeing him having a foot injury and he got hurt. It was a no contact injury. And I guarantee that was because the man was literally playing 47, 48 minutes a game and having to do offense, run the offense, score. So they're going to have to change up their philosophy a little bit and add like another scorer. And because he's not going to last 4 years from now. He's too small for that. But your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I was just going to say Shaq was definitely just put on TNT right now. He's shooting jumpers, so that I would say is optimistic. So we'll see.
Oh, he's gonna. If he can gut it out, he's gonna gut it out. But I think he want to make sure that whatever it is not something that can turn into a KD Achilles, and then that completely.
Oh no, we'll be able to tell in the first, I'd say, 3 minutes of the third quarter how he looks and how effective he can be. Like you'll know pretty quick when someone's dealing with something. You'll be able to tell a noticeable difference or not.
Absolutely.
Ben, real quick.
Yeah. Yep.
What this playoffs is going to be, it's going to be about a war of attrition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think Minnesota is going to make a deep run because you look at Denver, they run their starting five to the ground, and now some of the starters are getting nicked up.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, but go ahead, Ben. Didn't mean to interject there, but go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. I would say with the Brunson signing, I think it's LeBron and then it's Brunson as far as the most impactful free agent signings. So that's what we're saying, not any trades. Free agent signings because you kind of can't put Durant and Kyrie to Brooklyn. Anyway, you kind of can't put that anywhere in the top 5 or top 10. That was a pretty failed experiment there. And honestly, I mean, we go back. Let's use Shaq. I mean, now we're talking about a 30-year sample size. Let's say you got Shaq, Brunson. That would probably be my order because Shaq won 3 in 4 years and had a little bit more success than they did. Bron had in Miami and was there a little bit longer. But I'd probably go last 30 years as far as impactful free agent signings. I'd probably go in that order: Shaq, LeBron, Brunson. I can't really make an argument otherwise. But to your point, Thibodeau's main, biggest weakness as a head coach has always been playing his guys too much, and he has never learned. And it's like, well, if you haven't learned by now, you're just not gonna learn.
Now, to that, but to that, I say there's also an argument that these other teams that are breaking down a little more and more, that have broken down, that either didn't make the playoffs, lost in the play-in, lost in the first round. There are a lot of teams with a lot of load management. The Knicks didn't believe in nobody's load management. That is a curse word to Tom Thibodeau. But you look at where they're at now, and yes, the Brunson injury is going to be a concern going forward. It has to, especially on the heels of, 12 hours earlier, we find out that Mitchell Robinson's done for the playoffs. They say we're going to reevaluate him for a stress reaction in 6 to 8 weeks. I did the math because, math's not my strong suit, but 8 weeks from now is July 8th, if my math is mathing. And the last time I checked, the NBA season ends in June. So I'm going to safely assume that Mitchell Robinson's done for the year, getting off of that stump. On top of having that happen, there's an added pressure there with Brunson, with the Knicks, and really, I think part of it comes from the Tom Thibodeau overworking his players, but I think the fact that they didn't take any games off has kind of benefited them to this point as well.
Yeah, facts. That's pretty much what it comes down to. The load management thing. That's it's not working. If it were, Kawhi Leonard would be playing.
He'd be the MVP of the league. Kawhi Leonard has the talent, and the Clippers should be better than they are. But they
So all I'm saying is that all I'm saying is that the Knicks are primed to have a illustrious next 4 to 6 years. They have a real golden opportunity, right? Like, there are certain teams, them, the Magic, OKC are probably 3 teams that are like on the upward swing. But the thing is, though, is that you don't want to be the Kings where you didn't upgrade your roster, and instead of going from being a 3 seed to being a 1 seed, the next year you fell all the way back and you're not even in the playoffs. Right. So with that, it's going to make a difference what type of players that they bring in next from a culture standpoint and a schematic standpoint. But then it's also going to come down to the right fit. And I'm not sure if Thibodeau is really that right guy. Well, that's all I'm going to say on that. But let's get
with Tom Thibodeau, it's going to be his story no matter where he goes. Either it's going to eventually work and he can say I'm right, or he's just going to keep failing no matter where he goes.
Yeah, we'll see. And Brunson's back, so we'll see where this one goes.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of injuries, Kawhi and Paul George, are they the most disappointing duo in NBA history, Ben? Because when you're comparing expectations versus results, there's been a lot of results. There's been a lot of expectations, and they failed. So I think Paul George is leaving LA, and I think he's going somewhere else. I'll leave that and see what happens. But your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I would say that to be completely honest, the Clippers kind of robbed us of what we wanted to see when Kawhi and Paul George went there. The only playoff season that they were healthy together, which is crazy to say, was the bubble. And the bubble, they had a 3-1 lead in the conference semis. And, of course, their problem at the time was Doc Rivers was their coach and the king of losing 3-1 leads. But at the same time, one more win, and we would have seen one more, LeBron versus Kawhi, both in their prime-ish or in their primes matchup. And those have been lots of legendary games and legendary moments between those two. And if they had just won one more game, we would have seen it. And so we've still actually, I'm pretty sure Lakers and Clippers have never played in the playoffs against each other. I don't think it's ever happened. No. And that's one of the things that people were looking forward to when Paul George and Kawhi teamed up, and you already got Anthony Davis and LeBron there. That was expected. That was supposed to happen. And the Clippers blew it, and it's crazy to say, but that was 2020. I think the season was 2019, 2020, I believe. And now we're in 2024. The only playoff season that both of them were healthy was that year. And, that's a lot of unfortunate and unlucky and, whatever other words you want to use, but they missed just an excellent opportunity. And we as sports fans missed a great opportunity too, because, just even when it was Miami and the Spurs, like Kawhi and LeBron would have guarded each other one-on-one quite a bit. And that was always something that was really, really good to watch. And to Kawhi's credit, he always wanted that matchup too. He always wanted to guard LeBron. And they would have faced each other one-on-one plenty of times in that series if it ever happened. But clearly it didn't happen. And to be completely honest, as far as the hoopla and, what was expected and, even Kawhi Leonard doing that weird commercial that LA was his town, like how bad does that look now? His town is injury town. Like LA. So I think, honestly, it's got to rank up there as one of the most disappointing NBA duos. It has to. Compared to what was expected to what the results have been, it's got to be in the top 3 of most disappointing duos.
And yeah, and we were talking to and Gary before we came on the show when the green room. You got to look at Kawhi Leonard, and you have to look at the impact that he's had on those 2 championships versus what he really has, and which championships should count when it goes to his overall legacy, right? And that first championship in 2013, he wasn't the guy.
No, I dispute that. I think that was his coming out party. I think that was his welcome to the NBA. Like, I'm here as a formidable talent, not a superstar, a formidable talent.
But was he?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying though. But was he like the guy that carried them on his back the way he did in Toronto? He was still a contributor. Go ahead.
I think we look at that Spurs team and go, the culture, the coach. Right. He had Tony Parker, he had Manu Ginobili, he had Tim Duncan, but he had those 3 at the tail end.
Right.
He was the young gun. There was no mistake. Him winning Finals MVP was not a mistake. He literally carried that team offensively past the juggernaut that was Miami's big 3. Yes, it was a team effort because that's the Spurs way, but offensively, he was the best player in that particular series. That wasn't LeBron.
Hey, you know what? Hey,
I can do that. You can separate the 2.
Yeah. What
he did in Toronto,
right?
That was all him.
Right.
Yes, he had Marcus Gasol. Yes, he had Kyle Lowry. Yes, he had all the players around him, but he was the figurehead of that championship team.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying as far as between the time of 2014 when they won that title to 2019, it's only 5 years. He's still a top player and is still is a Hall of Fame player. But what has he really, really, really done outside of those 2 runs just due to the litany of injuries?
I think that's the biggest thing with him is the fact that he's been injured. But I'm pulling up the Spurs record in the post-championship since 2014. Before he left, you go back, they go 55-27 the year afterward. They go 67-15 the year afterward. They go 61-21 after that, and then 47-35 when he got hurt. and then they kind of started to tail off after he left. But even after he left, they won 48 games. So that's just the Spurs way, and they were still in the playoffs. But my point is, he was the best player on that Spurs team, and you look at the number of wins. I said 55, 67, 61. Like,
I'm right with that, Ben.
I was just gonna say I wanted to look it up because it's relevant as far as the discussion goes. As far as what did the Clippers give up to get Paul George? Because Kawhi Leonard signed there as a free agent, but he made an immediate demand that I want Paul George or else I'm not coming. And so the Clippers got Paul George. The Thunder got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, top 3 MVP candidate, clearly. Danilo Gallinari, and either 5, a couple articles are disagreeing with each other, either 5 first-round picks or 6 first-round picks. So that has to be part of the conversation as far as disappointing because of all the assets that the Clippers gave up because they were thinking and hoping that this duo was going to lead them to a championship, and they haven't even sniffed one. They haven't even made the conference finals. So that adds to the disappointment as far as how much capital the Clippers gave up.
Which trade was worse? The Russell Wilson trade or this one? Which one was the worst trade?
Oh, that's a good one. But I kind of lean Russell Wilson, to be honest.
Which one?
I mean,
they're both pretty bad.
Both essentially produced the same. The difference was, I'm gonna give it to Russell Wilson only because at least the Clippers made the playoffs, and it had to. At least they avoided the play-in, so they did. To blueprint, they did what they were supposed to do, kind of, sort of.
Okay, all right.
But it's not the margin is not
okay. All right. I think we're gonna have to do like the worst trade segment. I don't know, Ben. We might have to do like a tournament of like the worst trades and then have like a voter.
I mean, without any research, we can say those two and the Herschel Walker trade, and we might not be able to come up with a better top 3.
Okay.
Definitely those 3.
Mean, you consider the Marlins trading Giancarlo Stanton after he won MVP?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a valid one too.
All right.
Yo, we want to talk a little bit of Timberwolves real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna do. We could do like just 3 minutes real quick. Bucks, Sixers, Lakers, and Suns. Which team has the best chance to win a championship the next 2 to 3 years? We'll make that quick. Each person gets like a minute. We'll give each person like 45 seconds. And then we'll get to the Timberwolves, and then we'll do Ben Gets Loud so we can keep this under 45 minutes. We'll do that. Yeah. Great. I'll throw it to you. You're for like one of those teams. We'll make it very quick. Like 45 seconds a piece, and then we'll get to the next one. Then we'll get to Ben's Get Loud.
Okay, so you asked me of those 4 teams, who's going to be the closest one?
Sixers, Lakers, and Suns. Which team has the best chance to win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years? And the Knicks just came back. Wow. Okay.
Can't kill him. The correct answer to your question is none of the above. But gun to head, I'm going to say the Bucks just because until Giannis decides he doesn't want to play Milwaukee anymore, he is still who he is. And as long as he's healthy, he is top 3 in the league. So I'm going to say the Bucks, but it would have to be a Bucks team without Doc Rivers as its coach.
Okay. I think that window for the Bucks is closed, to be honest with you, Ben. I mean, I think it's done. I think it's gone. I think Giannis is injury prone. They're going to have to load manage him, and they have no assets to really trade for anything. So I think that experiment's done. But just my opinion, but we'll see. Ben?
I would say I lean Giannis because out of what are the teams again? The Sixers, the Bucks, the Lakers, and the Suns.
Yeah.
So out of those 4, the Bucks have the youngest superstar, and although he is or has been injury prone, is much less injury prone than Joel Embiid. So I'm going to go with the youngest superstar Although I don't know, maybe Embiid is younger, but I think Giannis is younger. Either way, the age is very close, so I'll go with the Bucks because of that. But they definitely have some questions as far as what are they going to do with both Middleton and Lopez, because they're both, clearly not what they were when they won the championship 3 years ago, and they're going to have to fill some pieces. So, but I think that they're based upon the best player on those teams that is going to be the most available. I'm going to say Bucks for that reason.
I'm going to say the Sixers because I think that what they have in a GM in Morey, right? Morey's his name? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Morey being there, knowing how aggressive he is, how young our friend whose name I'm completely drawing a blank for.
Tyrese Maxey.
Tyrese Maxey. I don't know why I drew a blank on that one. Thanks for helping me out. I think they're going to, without Embiid, I think because you have a guy like Maxey, and I think that because they still have some draft capital that they can use to make some moves, and they're going to get rid of Tobias Harris. I think they're going to do that. I don't trust Giannis's health long term now that he's going into in his 30s now. As he's going to get older, his body's going to break down more. So I just have a lot of questions after him missing the playoffs 2 years in a row. But we'll see. But let's get to Timberwolves real quick. Let's spend maybe 3 or 4 minutes talking about them. Ben, I'll toss it to you as far as your thoughts on these lovely Timberwolves because, man, they are looking very dangerous. And then, Gary, we will get you in this bad boy.
I mean, look at what they've done to start the playoffs. Talk about making a freaking statement. Like, we are here, we are coming, and we ain't playing no games. They take out the Phoenix Suns in a sweep. The Suns were healthy, for the first time. Not the first time, but you got Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Kevin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, all healthy, all playing, either in their primes or extremely close to their primes. Durant has actually statistically been better after the torn Achilles, which is insane. So all three of them are still playing at a very, very high level. And the Timberwolves say, yeah, we don't care, and we ain't even going to give you a game, and we're going to sweep you. And they did. So they take out the Suns 4-0, which a lot of people, including me, to be completely frank, had the Suns winning that series. And me and a lot of others were wrong. Timberwolves sweep them. Bye-bye. See you later. And, which, by the way, sorry, Kevin Durant, it's part of your resume. You've been swept in the first round twice now.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's a thing. LeBron got swept once, but at least it was in the Western Conference Finals. You've been swept twice in the first round. That'll always be on your resume, Mr. Kevin Durant. And then what do they do next? Timberwolves. Okay, so they sweep the Suns, favored Suns for the most part, and they go into Denver, defending champs, on the road. High altitude. That's always a thing. That's always something that you hear opponents talk about. Going to Denver, and they win a close game in Game 1. And then without the Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, which, by the way, was deserving. I know Wemby had a case as well, but Gobert, he's still a very great defender. And I was talking to my friend the other day. You got to give him credit because in the playoffs a couple of years ago, there were a couple of teams that just made him look silly. He couldn't guard the guards, and that was that. And they made him look silly. And he's gotten a lot better because you haven't heard any of that talk. And having Karl Anthony Towns there matters, obviously, but he's shown improvement, and you got to give him credit. So they go into Denver Game 2 without Gobert, and they put on one of the most impressive defensive performances of our lives if we're talking about one game. Without that Defensive Player of the Year, against the defending champs, at their place, they allowed 80 points. Like, that's just actually, to an extent, incredible. And they've made Jokic, who just won the MVP again, which is deserved as well, I would say, although, we had a really good conversation earlier in the show. But they made Jokic look normal. And that's an accomplishment in itself right there. So I think the Timberwolves being 6-0 in the playoffs and what they've done They deserve a lot of praise, and they have to be taken seriously as serious threats to win the whole damn thing.
You know, Gary, and all great points. And Gary, like one of the things I think of when you look at all the champions, they have those sparks that come off the bench and can give you that 5 to 10 points when you need it. They have depth of a bench. They have the length, and they have that one dude that can take over. They have all of that. So they are a juggernaut. I mean, Anthony Edwards is that guy, and he's only 22 years old, although I think he's going to be a licker. I mean, we're not surprised, and I'm saying this now. I think they might sweep the Nuggets. I don't think it's going to happen. I give them a 60% chance to potentially sweep the Nuggets. But what say you, sir? Will they sweep the Nuggets?
No, I said Wolves in 6. I still think that they will go back to Denver up 3-1. Denver will win game 5, and then Minnesota will get to finish them off in game 6 on their home court. I think Denver ain't going to go down. They ain't going to go out like that, or at least not that easily. You know, no champion really falls. Like, unless injuries are more of a thing, no champion falls that easily. So I'm willing to. I'm still saying that the Timberwolves are going to win the series for sure. I believe that this is their coming out party. This all reminds me of, and I say reminds me of. Bear in mind that the only reference I have of this is from watching older tapes. It's the Bulls in '89. They knocked off Cleveland. They knocked off the Knicks in the second round. They got to the conference finals, and they lost to the eventual champion Pistons. But you could see Jordan and that team was coming. Where Boston had reached their sunset. Chicago was on their way up, and Detroit was already at the top of the mountain. With Minnesota, I see a whole lot of that with this team. And if they can stay healthy and they can stay together, I still think that they could possibly pull this off and end up in the finals this year, because I don't trust Oklahoma City. I know that they blew out Dallas, but like, I think that Minnesota is far more talented than Oklahoma City is. I would take Anthony Edwards over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that's not a knock against SGA. I just think that where Oklahoma City overachieved this season, Minnesota has been grinding, and this is kind of it coming to fruition.
And you know, Gary, like watching both of them, like I'm not gonna lie, I have not watched a lick of OKC this year. This game was the first game that I saw OKC, literally 48 minutes. And the thing that stood out for me, which I think is going to cost Dallas a lot of problems, is the athleticism, the freakish athleticism that OKC has. And Luka is not necessarily the fastest person, and his injury to his knee is only going to continue to get worse as the series progresses, right? I think they can maybe win one game in this series, but they're athletic. So, and I think that Minnesota is even more athletic, and I think they're a juggernaut right now. So I think that's going to be a very exciting series. But Ben, like, how confident? Let's just say in a hypothetical world, and then we'll get to you. Hypothetical world: Boston, Minnesota, finals preview. Who wins?
I'm sorry, I cannot pick Boston until they do it. I've seen them fail enough in the playoffs. You got to show me. I don't care if you're the 1 seed the whole season. You didn't do it in the playoffs yet. You keep all these playoff disappointments. You lose to the freaking Miami Heat last year, ruining what would have been an epic finals, probably between Nuggets Celtics. That would have been a probably classic 6 or 7 game series. Instead, we got treated to Miami and the Nuggets, with Miami had no freaking chance at all. So I would favor the Timberwolves. And what I wanted to say quick on this is, first of all, the Nuggets, I know there was no precedent, which makes the NBA in a harder place, but they got the gift of freaking God that Jamal Murray is not suspended, given what he did. That was the NBA literally saying, we don't want to sweep, and if we suspend him for game 3, it's going to be a sweep. Like, let's just call it what it is. He got off extremely, extremely easy. and they
$100,000.
that ain't shit to them, and you know that. I know that's why you're smiling.
Okay.
But yeah, they got off easy for sure on that. And then I want to say, although he has a much better team, which is true, than LeBron in 2007, the storyline would be similar. LeBron at age 22 takes the team to the finals as the best player, and Anthony Edwards at age 22 takes the team to the finals.
Uh-oh. OG. Yeah. All right, we'll see. All right. Ben, take it away, sir.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit on load management, and like, bro, it doesn't freaking work. It doesn't work. You see, Kawhi Leonard is the poster boy, and kind of what I guess in a way made load management famous, so to speak. Let's say, and you see what happens when it comes to May. He ain't on the damn court. He ain't playing when it matters most, the last couple of postseasons, and he's the one that, they rested the most, let's say. And let's be honest, I looked, a while back, I looked at it like Jordan, Barkley, like some of these dudes that played like 75 games, 80 games, like almost every year, they played every freaking game. And the technology wasn't nearly what it is now. There's something to your body actually playing and, having that physicality and not, resting. Those guys did not load management at all. They played 75 games, 80 games multiple times. I think Jordan played 82 games like 8 times. And they played and they didn't get injured as much. And the load management era, people get hurt. Joel Embiid is another one. They load manage him. He gets hurt all the time. Like, it doesn't freaking work. And the fact that these teams still think that it does boggles my mind, because it doesn't. There's so much evidence that load management does not work at all. Now, on a minor degree, every once in a while, somebody, who's injury prone on a back-to-back, I'm saying in minimal, using it minimally can work. But to the degree that these teams use it, it doesn't freaking work, man. I don't know how much more evidence that these NBA teams need that it doesn't work, but they're just going to keep on doing it because apparently they don't pay attention to the people that are load managed the most also are getting injured the most. So that's what I wanted to say on load management. It doesn't freaking work.
And I thought medicine and the advancements of technology kind of helped reduce injuries, but hey, I don't know.
No, and real quick, just to your point, Ben, about like the guys like Jordan that played, like in Jordan's last 3 seasons with the Bulls. I'm not counting the Wizards. Nobody count that. That was a fever dream. Nobody counts that. But his last 3 seasons with the Bulls. So I did some quick math. 82 times 3 is 246. That's the number of games that he could have played. Michael Jordan played 246 games of 246 games in his last, when he didn't have to. Think about that. At the very end, when he absolutely didn't have to, he gave the people what they paid to see 82 nights a year for 3 straight years. He's different. This league, they're not doing that anymore. They can't. You look at Josh Hart might be the next one to play a full 82. And no, all respect to him, he's not Jordan. So
I forget the name now that you bring it up. There's somebody in the league right now that has played, I think it's like 6 years straight of playing 82 games. I cannot think of who it is. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure there's an active player that's played like all 82 games, like maybe not 6, but like 4 or 5 seasons in a row. I think that's somebody.
Right now, Mikal Bridges of the Nets.
How many seasons?
Let's do the math, because it'd be 446 divided by 82. 446 divided by 82.
This would be 4.
So once I guess this hasn't updated yet. This is from February. So figure the streaks probably reached the end of the season. So 5 full seasons.
Yeah. Mikal Bridges. Yep. I knew it was somebody. Yeah. Thank you for doing that research, sir.
Yeah, love it. But all right, guys, we'll keep this one a little short, but hey, it's great chatting it up with you guys. We'll definitely get back to the regular Tuesday show. Life happens, all that. This next game looks like it's going to come close. My Bruins are getting their butts spanked 4-1 right now, but life lives on. Until next time, guys, appreciate the love and support. Until next time, DTS out.